Why financial anxiety never disappears. You got a raise 6 months ago. It was a real raise, not a cost of living bump, not a title change with the same paycheck. An actual raise. More money every 2 weeks deposited into your account. And for about a week, you felt something close to relief. You sat down, looked at the numbers, and thought, okay, this helps. This changes things. You paid a bill that had been sitting on the counter. You ordered food without checking the price first. You walked through a store and, for a brief moment, did not calculate. But then something happened. Quietly. Without a reason you could point to. You started checking your bank account again. Not because anything was wrong. Not because a bill was due. You just checked. The way you always check. First thing in the morning sometimes. Or in the middle of the day during a break, standing in line before you buy something small like a coffee or a sandwich. You were not looking for a specific number. You were looking for reassurance, and the reassurance never lasted. You saw the balance, and it was fine. And then 20 minutes later, you were not sure it was fine. So you checked again. You started adjusting. You moved a little more into savings. You looked at your rent and thought about whether you should find somewhere cheaper anyway. You ran numbers on what would happen if your car broke down, if you needed dental work, if the company did layoffs in the fall. None of those things were happening, but you planned for them. You braced for them. You held the money a little tighter, not because you were greedy, but because letting go of it, even in normal ways, even on things you needed, still made your stomach tighten. Your friend noticed. They said, "You got a raise. Relax, enjoy it." And you nodded. Because what else do you say? You could not explain that the raise changed your balance, but not the feeling. That the feeling was there before the raise, and it was there after the raise. That it was there when you had less, and it would be there when you had more. That it is not about the number. It has never been about the number. You could not explain it because no one talks about it. But the truth is simple. Financial anxiety does not come from your bank account. It comes from the structure you live inside. And that structure did not change when your paycheck did. What financial anxiety actually is. Most people think financial anxiety is about not having enough money, and that makes sense. If you are short on rent, you feel anxious. If a bill surprises you, you feel anxious. If your checking account drops below a certain number, your body responds before your mind even catches up. So people assume the fix is obvious. Get more money. And once you have more money, the anxiety should stop. But here's what makes financial anxiety different from other kinds of worry. It does not go away when the problem gets solved. If you are worried about a test, you take the test and the worry ends. Maybe the result is bad, but the anticipation is over. The thing happened. You can deal with what comes next. If you are worried about a hard conversation, you have the conversation. Even if it goes badly, you are on the other side of it. The waiting is done. Financial anxiety does not work that way. You pay the bill, and the next one is already forming. You cover this month, and next month is already taking shape in the back of your mind. You save a little, and you immediately start calculating how fast it would disappear if something went wrong. The worry does not attach to a single event. It attaches to a condition. And the condition is this. You are dependent on systems you do not control, for money you cannot guarantee, to cover needs you cannot avoid. That is not a feeling. That is a situation. You need a job to make money. You need the job to keep existing. You need your health to keep the job. You need insurance to keep your health. You need the job to keep the insurance. And the job can disappear at any time for reasons that have nothing to do with you. That loop has no exit. And as long as you are inside it, the anxiety stays. It does not matter whether you are doing well or doing badly. The loop is the same. The dependency is the same. The lack of control is the same. This is why people who earn good money still feel it. This is why people with savings still check their accounts at night. This is why people who look comfortable from the outside still lie awake doing math in their heads. They are not broken. They are paying attention. How the anxiety forms. Financial anxiety does not start with a crisis. It starts with a pattern. And the pattern begins very early. Think about the first time you understood that money was something adults worried about. You probably did not hear a lecture. No one sat you down and explained it. You heard a pause, a tone, a shift in the room. Your parent picked up a bill from the counter and went quiet. Not angry, not sad, just quiet. A specific kind of quiet that means, I am doing math right now, and the math is not good. Or you asked for something at the store, a toy, a snack, something small, and the answer was not no. The answer was a tight smile and a redirect. Maybe next time. We'll see. Let's not today. Those words are gentle, but the feeling behind them is not. Children do not understand budgets, but they understand tension. They read it in shoulders and voices, in the way a hand pulls a cart away from a certain aisle, without explaining why. You were not told that money was stressful. You felt it. You absorbed it. And in that moment, something clicked into place that you did not have words for yet. Money is not just a thing people use. Money is a thing people feel. And the feeling is not safe to talk about. That early learning does not go away. It does not get replaced by logic or experience or a better paycheck. It becomes the background, the operating system, the thing running underneath every financial decision you make for the rest of your life. Fast forward. You are 24, you have a job, you pay your own bills. But every time you check your account, you feel a small drop in your stomach, even if the number is fine. Every time a bill comes in, you feel a tiny jolt, even if you can cover it. Every time someone suggests dinner at a place you have not been, you do quick math before you say yes. Nobody taught you to do that. Nobody told you to run numbers before answering a text about dinner. But you do it. Automatically. Without thinking. You do not notice it because it has always been there. It feels like you. Like how you are wired. Like a personality trait. But it is not a personality trait. It is a response. It was learned in those early moments when the air changed and no one explained why. And it has been running ever since. And it gets reinforced at every stage. In college, you learn that opportunity has a price tag. That choosing one thing means giving up another. That everyone around you seemed to be handling things fine, even though half of them were carrying the same quiet weight and hiding it the same way you were. In your first job, you learn that a paycheck does not mean safety. It means a number that has to stretch across rent, food, gas, insurance, and the slow drip of costs you did not expect. You learned how fast money leaves, how the gap between payday and the next bill is shorter than you thought, how a single car repair can unravel a month of careful planning. In your 30s, you learn that the math gets harder, not easier. that the things you need cost more, that the people who depend on you multiply, that the list of things that could go wrong gets longer with every year, while the margin for absorbing those things does not grow at the same rate. At every stage, the lesson is the same. Money is not a problem you solve once. It is a condition you manage forever, and the managing never feels finished. The structure underneath. Here is what most conversations about financial anxiety miss entirely. They treat it like a personal problem, like something you can fix with a better budget, a savings plan, a side hustle, or a mindset shift. And those things can help. A budget gives you information. Savings give you a buffer. Those are real, but they do not touch the thing that creates the anxiety in the first place. The thing that creates it is dependence. You need money to live. You need it for food, shelter, medicine, heat, water, transportation. You cannot opt out of needing it. You cannot decide to stop requiring it. And the way you get it, for most people, is by working for someone else, under terms you did not set, in a position you could lose for reasons that may have nothing to do with your performance. That is not a flaw in your thinking. That is the design of the system. Your landlord can raise your rent, and you either pay it or move. Your employer can eliminate your position, and you either find another one or you do not. Your insurance can deny a claim, and you either fight it or absorb the cost. Your car can break down. A pipe can burst. A tooth can crack. And every one of those things converts directly into a financial problem that you are expected to handle on your own, with money you may or may not have. There is no buffer built into the structure. There is no grace period that arrives automatically. There is no pause button. The bills come on schedule, whether your life is stable or falling apart. This is why budgeting helps, but does not cure. You can organize your money perfectly. You can track every dollar. You can cancel subscriptions and eat at home and never buy anything you do not need. And you will still feel the weight of knowing that one bad month, one layoff, one accident, one diagnosis could undo all of it. The anxiety is not irrational. It is a rational response to a real condition. And here is the part that matters most. Telling someone their rational response is a problem does not make the condition go away. It just adds shame to the weight they are already carrying. How it changes communication. Financial anxiety does not just live in your head, it moves into your voice, your timing, your word choices, the things you say yes to, the things you avoid, the way you pause before answering a simple question. Most of the time, no one notices because the changes are small. They live in the spaces between words. At work, your manager says, in a meeting, "We're going to be restructuring a few things next quarter." That sentence written on paper means almost nothing. It is vague. It is corporate language. It could mean anything. A new org chart, a software change, a different reporting structure. But if you carry financial anxiety, you do not hear a neutral sentence. You hear a threat. Your body tightens, not visibly, not in a way anyone in the room would notice. But inside, something shifts. You start scanning. You watch your manager's face. You notice who they look at when they say it. You notice who they do not look at. You replay the sentence later, alone, turning it over, looking for what was underneath the words. You wonder if restructuring means your job is at risk. You wonder if you should update your resume tonight. You wonder how many months your savings would hold. You do not ask for clarification, because asking might draw attention. Asking might signal that you are worried, and worried people look vulnerable. And vulnerable people, the anxiety tells you, get cut first. You have no evidence for this belief, but the anxiety does not need evidence. It needs silence, so you stay quiet and you watch. Meanwhile, your manager has moved on to the next topic. They said the sentence because they were told to mention it. It was not aimed at you. It was not a signal. It was just a bullet point on a slide. But you carry it home. You carry it into the evening. You carry it into the weekend. On Monday, you arrive early. You stay late. You agree to things you would not normally agree to. You laugh a little louder at the right moments. Not because anyone asked, because the anxiety told you to. Because performing reliability feels safer than asking directly whether your job is secure. In relationships, your partner says, on a Saturday morning, we should really take a trip this summer, maybe somewhere on the coast. And you hear it, but before you answer, something happens inside. A quick sequence: flights, hotels, gas, food, days off work. What that would do to your savings. What would happen if something went wrong the month after you got back? You do not say any of that. You say, yeah, that could be nice. But your voice is flat. Your eyes drift. You are somewhere else already. Not at the coast, but at a spreadsheet in your head that your partner cannot see. They notice. Not the math, not the worry. They notice that you pulled back, that your reaction was not excitement, that you seemed distant when they were trying to connect with you. And now there is a new tension. Not a money tension, a relationship tension. Your partner feels dismissed. You feel pressured. Neither of you is talking about what is actually going on, which is that you are afraid. Not of the trip itself, but of what spending that money might mean if something breaks afterward. Financial anxiety did not cause a fight. It caused a gap. A small distance that opened between two people, and neither one has the words to close it. With friends, someone texts the group, "Dinner Friday? There's a new place downtown." You look at the restaurant. You look at the menu online. You see the prices, and you do not reply, "That's out of my budget right now." You say, "I'm not really in the mood for that kind of food." Or you say, "I think I might have something that night." Or you just do not reply to the text, and you hope someone else suggests a different place, or the plans fall through. You manage the situation without revealing the reason. You protect your money. But you also protect something else, something harder to name. Because admitting that a restaurant is too expensive feels like admitting something about your life. And in a world that treats money as a measure of competence, saying "I can't afford it" feels dangerously close to saying "I am not enough." So you dodge, you deflect, you withdraw. And over time, the people around you stop inviting you. Not because they judged you, because they thought you were not interested. The anxiety did not just cost you money, it cost you connection. And you may not even notice, because by the time the invitations stop, you have already told yourself you prefer being alone. How people can misread what is happening. Financial anxiety is one of the most misread experiences in everyday life. Not because it is hidden, because the behaviors it produces look like something else entirely. The person who never wants to go out looks antisocial, but they are not antisocial. They are budgeting. Every invitation runs through a filter they did not choose, and by the time the filter is done, the answer is usually no. The person who works late every single night looks ambitious, driven, dedicated, but they are not chasing a promotion. They are terrified of being seen as dispensable. They stay late because leaving on time feels like a risk they cannot afford. The person who never buys anything for themselves looks disciplined, responsible, admirable even, but they are not choosing restraint out of virtue. They are unable to spend without guilt, even when they have the money, even when the purchase is small, even when the thing they need would make their day easier. The person who gets tense when their partner brings up money looks controlling, or angry, or difficult to be around. But they are not any of those things. They are overwhelmed by a pressure they do not know how to put into words, and the mention of money brings every bit of it to the surface at once. The person who insists on the cheapest option every single time looks stingy, tight, no fun. But they are running a calculation in the background that no one else can see. Every dollar out feels like a step closer to a line they have been watching their whole life, a line between okay and not okay. These behaviors get read as personality, as choices, as character. People say, she's just like that, or he's always been careful, or they just don't like going out. But those are not descriptions of who someone is. They are descriptions of what someone is doing to manage a feeling that never turns off. And the misreadings go in both directions. The person with financial anxiety also misreads themselves. They think their caution is wisdom. They think their tightness is discipline. They think their inability to enjoy spending is a sign of maturity. They tell themselves they are being responsible when what they are really being is afraid. And when someone suggests gently that maybe they could loosen up a little, treat themselves, take a day off, stop worrying so much, they feel criticized. Because to them, the worry is not a problem. It is the only thing standing between them and disaster. Letting go of it feels reckless. It feels like taking your hands off the wheel on a highway. They do not see the worry as something that was put there by conditions they did not choose. They see it as something they built on purpose to keep themselves safe. And so they defend it. They hold it tighter, and the pattern deepens. Why more money does not fix it. This is the part that confuses people the most, including the people who have the anxiety. You would think that earning more would end it, and in some ways it helps. More money means fewer immediate crises. It means a buffer. It means you can pay the bill without your hands going cold. But it does not end the feeling, and here is why. When you've been financially anxious for a long time, years, maybe decades, the anxiety stops being a reaction to a problem. It becomes a lens. It is not something you feel in response to a specific event. It is how you see everything. You get a raise, and instead of relaxing, you think about how the raise could go away. You think about what would happen if the company was sold, or if your role was automated, or if the economy shifted. You build savings, and instead of feeling safe, you calculate how fast the savings would drain if your income stopped. You pay off a debt, and instead of celebrating, your mind has already moved to the next thing that could go wrong. The anxiety scales. It adapts. It adjusts to whatever level you are at, and finds new dangers there. Because the anxiety was never about the number. It was about the feeling of depending on something that could move. And that feeling does not change with income. The ground you stand on, employment, health, housing costs, the broader economy, is still not fully in your control. More money gives you more room. But room is not the same as solid ground. People who grew up with financial instability understand this in a way that lives in their body. Even if they earn well now, even if they own a home, even if, by any outside measure, they are doing fine. The person who once went hungry does not stop scanning menus for the cheapest item, even at dinners someone else is paying for. The person who once had their power shut off does not stop feeling a small jolt when the electric bill arrives, even though paying it is easy now. The person who once wore clothes with holes does not stop noticing the price tag first, even in stores they can easily afford. The body remembers, the nervous system remembers, and the memory is not a thought you can argue away. It is a reflex, a tightening, a readiness to lose what you have, because you have lost things before, and the world has already shown you it can happen again at any time. How the pattern sustains itself. Financial anxiety has a quality that makes it especially hard to escape. It reinforces itself. The anxiety produces behaviors. The behaviors produce conditions. And the conditions feed the anxiety back. Here is how it works. You feel anxious about money, so you hold tighter. You spend less. You say no to things. You withdraw from situations that cost money. You take extra shifts. You skip the dentist. You cancel the streaming service. You eat the same meals every week because the cost is predictable. And all of that feels responsible. It feels productive. It feels like you are doing the right thing, but it also narrows your life. You have fewer experiences, fewer connections, less rest, less variety, less of the texture that reminds you life is more than an accounting ledger. And when your life gets narrower, the anxiety fills more of it. Because there is less to balance it out. Less to pull your attention somewhere else. Less to remind you that money is a tool and not the whole story. So the anxiety grows, and you respond by tightening further. And the cycle turns again. At the same time, the people around you start adjusting. Your friends stop reaching out because you always decline. Your partner stops suggesting things because the answer is always a careful pause and a redirect. Your coworkers stop asking you to join them because you always bring food from home and eat at your desk. Nobody is rejecting you. They are adapting to what you are showing them. But the result is the same. You become more isolated, and isolation feeds the anxiety, because now you are sitting with it alone, with no one to check it against, no one to say, I know, I feel that too. This is the closed loop. The behavior the anxiety creates removes the very things that might ease it. Connection, perspective, the simple relief of saying the truth out loud, and hearing that you are not the only one. The silence around money. There is a reason people do not talk about money, and it is not just awkwardness. It is structure. Money is one of the only areas of life where silence is treated as good manners. You can talk about your health, your relationships, your childhood, your fears. You can talk about nearly anything and people will listen. But if you say how much you earn, or how much you owe, or how much you worry about it, the room shifts. People get uncomfortable, not because the topic is boring, because it is revealing in a way that makes everyone feel exposed. Money shows differences that everyone knows exist, but no one wants to name out loud. If you tell a friend you make more than they do, something changes. If you tell them you make less, something changes. If you admit you are in debt, people look at you differently. If you reveal you have savings, people look at you differently too. There is no neutral way to have the conversation. Every number carries a judgment. And so people stay silent. They perform stability. They perform comfort. They say things are good and move to a different subject. And this silence does something very specific to the anxiety. It makes every person believe they are the only one carrying it. The person lying awake at 2 in the morning doing math thinks they are the only one who does that. The person who feels a jolt of panic when their card is declined, even for a small amount, even when there is money in the account, thinks they are the only one who reacts that way. The person who feels guilty for buying themselves new shoes, even shoes they need, thinks something is uniquely wrong with them. They are not the only one, but the silence makes it feel that way. And the isolation makes the anxiety heavier because there is no release valve. No place to say, this is hard, this is constant, this is not going away. Think about what this means in practice. 2 coworkers sit across from each other every day. Both are running numbers in their heads. Both check their accounts before lunch. Both felt something tighten when the company announced a hiring freeze. Neither one says a word about it. Instead, they talk about the weekend, about a show they watched, about a meeting that went long. They talk about everything except the thing that is sitting in both of their chests at the same time. And each one walks away thinking, I am the only one who feels this way. Everyone else seems fine. Something must be wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with either of them. But the silence makes the feeling unshareable. And an unshareable feeling grows heavier with time because it has nowhere to go except deeper inside the person carrying it. A couple sits at a kitchen table. One of them is worried about money. The other is too. But neither says it first. Because saying it first means admitting that things are not okay. And admitting that feels like failure. So they talk about what to have for dinner. They talk about the dog. They talk about whether the gutter needs to be fixed. And the one thing they both need to talk about stays locked behind a door that neither of them opens. This is what silence does. It does not protect people from the anxiety. It protects the anxiety from being challenged. How power shapes the anxiety. Financial anxiety is not spread evenly, and the reason is not just income. It is position. It is leverage. It is who has options and who does not. The person who sets your salary does not lie awake worrying about your paycheck the way you do. The landlord who raised your rent does not feel the weight of that number the way you feel it. The company that sends you a medical bill does not carry it the way you carry it. This is not because those people are heartless. It is because they sit on the other side of the exchange. They have alternatives. You have obligations. When your employer says, "We really value our team," you hear it differently depending on where you sit. If you are the one whose position could be cut, that sentence is not reassurance. It is a claim you cannot verify. You will not know whether you are truly valued until the moment you are not. And by then, it is too late to prepare. When your landlord says, "I hate to do this, but I have to raise the rent," you are not in a conversation between equals. One of you will be fine regardless. The other might have to uproot their life, their children's school, their commute, their sense of stability. When the insurance company says, "That procedure is not covered," you are not being consulted. You are being informed. And your options are to pay out of pocket, go without the care, or spend hours on hold, fighting a process that was not designed for you to win. Financial anxiety lives in these gaps, in the distance between what you need and what you can control. And the less control you have, the more the anxiety fills in. It fills the silence between paychecks. It fills the pause between the bill arriving and the payment going out. It fills the moment after your manager says something vague in a meeting, and you spend the rest of the day trying to decode it. The people with more power do not feel these gaps the same way, not because they are braver, because the gaps are smaller for them. The margin is wider. The consequences are softer. A bad month for them is an inconvenience. A bad month for you might be a turning point. What financial anxiety costs beyond money. The hardest thing about financial anxiety is not the money. It is everything the anxiety takes that has nothing to do with money at all. It takes attention. The mental energy you spend tracking, calculating, forecasting, and worrying is energy you are not spending on other things. On ideas, on people, on rest, on the kind of open, unstructured thinking that has no price tag but makes life feel like more than a series of bills. It takes presence. When you are running numbers in the background, you are not fully where you are. You are at dinner but thinking about the check. You are at your child's game but thinking about the registration fee for next season. You are in a conversation with someone you care about, but half of your attention is somewhere else entirely, doing math that no one asked you to do, but that your body insists on. It takes honesty. Because you cannot say the real reason, you build a second version of yourself. The one who says, "I'm good," when they are not. The one who says, "sounds fun," when they mean, "I cannot afford that." The one who says, "no thanks," when they mean, "I wish I could, but the numbers do not work, and I cannot explain that without feeling like I am admitting something I do not want anyone to know." It takes risk. The things that might actually change your life, but a new career, more education, starting something of your own, moving to a place with more opportunity, all require money, or require giving up money you currently depend on. And when you are anxious about money, the distance between where you are and where you want to be has a cost. And the cost feels like it could break you. So you stay. Not because you are content, not because you chose this, because the anxiety chose it for you. One small not right now at a time, until the not right nows stack up into years. What it looks like over time. Financial anxiety does not stay the same. It changes shape depending on what is happening around you. If things stay tight for a long time, the anxiety becomes a default. It stops being something you notice. It is just the water you swim in. It is how you wake up, how you move through a grocery store, checking prices before you look at what you want, how you answer the phone when an unfamiliar number calls, bracing for a bill collector even if you have nothing in collections. You stop recognizing it as anxiety. It just becomes the way you live. And you forget that other people do not do the same math you do when they park the car or order a drink or hear an unexpected knock at the door. If things improve, if you land a better job or pay off a debt or build a savings cushion for the first time, the anxiety does not disappear. It shifts. Instead of worrying about getting by, you start worrying about losing what you gained. Instead of fearing the hole, you fear falling back into it. And this version of the anxiety is harder to explain. Because from the outside, you look fine, you look stable, you look like someone who should not be worried anymore. But inside, you are standing guard, watching for signs, tracking expenses with the precision that other people find strange, keeping a mental tally of how many months you could survive if everything fell apart tomorrow, running scenarios that have not happened and may never happen, but feel in your body like they already have. If you make it to a place of real financial security, savings, property, a stable career, the anxiety may soften, but it rarely disappears completely. It becomes a reflex you can manage, but cannot fully turn off. The way someone who once broke a bone still favors that limb, years later without thinking about it. The wound healed. The caution did not. And if things get worse again, a job loss, a recession, a medical emergency, the anxiety does not come back. It was never gone. It just rises to the surface, fully formed, as if no time has passed at all. The old feelings return instantly. The checking, the bracing, the math at 3 in the morning. It is all still there, waiting, and it does not need to warm up. Closing reflection. Financial anxiety is one of the most common experiences in modern life, and one of the least understood. Not because it is complicated, but because it is invisible. It hides behind polite smiles and careful answers, behind hard work and tight budgets, and the quiet discipline of never buying the thing you actually want. It hides behind people who look like they have it together, who show up on time, who pay their bills, who say, "I'm fine," without blinking. It looks like responsibility. It looks like maturity. It looks like someone who is doing well. But underneath, the math never stops. The scanning never stops. The bracing never stops. And the reason it never stops is not because something is wrong with the person. It is because the conditions that created the anxiety have not changed. The job is still uncertain. The costs are still climbing. The safety net is still thin. The distance between doing okay and not okay is still one bad month, one unexpected bill, one decision made by someone you have never met. People carry this every single day. In meetings, in grocery stores, in bed at night, in conversations with people they love. They carry it quietly because no one else seems to be carrying it, because nobody talks about it, because talking about money means showing something that feels too close to who you are. But it is not who you are. It is where you are. It is what the structure asks of you. It is the weight of standing on ground that can shift at any time, knowing that when it does, you are the one who will have to catch yourself. And the first step toward anything different, not a fix, not a cure, but something different, is seeing that clearly. Not as a personal failure, not as a mindset problem, not as something that a better spreadsheet or a more grateful attitude would solve, but as the quiet, constant math that millions of people are doing right now, in their heads, behind their eyes, without saying a word. The next time someone declines an invitation with a vague excuse, consider what might be underneath it. The next time someone seems distracted in a conversation, consider where their attention might actually be. The next time someone reacts sharply to a small expense, consider what that small number might represent inside a much larger calculation they have been running all day, all week, all year. You may not be able to see it, but it is there, in people you know, in people you love, in people who smile and say, "I'm fine." The anxiety is not loud. It does not announce itself. It sits in the background, quiet and steady, doing what it has always done, counting.